Raj, part of The Way, co-founder of The Way. It is our nonprofit that works in financial literacy, relationships, and philanthropy. Today, we have a special treat for y'all. So if you are so kind, definitely the link is not in my bio, and it should be. But there is a link to our YouTube channel. If you can definitely jump over there, that'll be great. YouTube, what's going on? Welcome to the broadcast. Thank you for joining me. So today we actually have a really cool episode for y'all. We're going to be reviewing our actual financial literacy course. So we have been working on a financial literacy course and app, and we are going to be introducing chapter 1 on this call. So if you have been interested in finance and you want to know a little bit more about how to get started with investments, with crypto, with land, with all these different types of things that you can do assets wise, well, in order for you to get started in finance, you have to understand that it starts at the beginning. You know, the story of the guy that went from zero to millionaire isn't a natural story. Okay. It requires a level of understanding when it comes to money, when it comes to finance, when it comes to your financial future and picture. So today we're going to go over chapter 1 of our financial literacy course, which is called The Foundations of Finance. So if you have friends, if you have anyone that's interested in learning more about investments and assets and wants to get started but doesn't know how, well, today's episode will be the perfect episode for them to get involved in. So first and foremost, I want to say that this episode is brought to you by StreamYard. They're not really brought by StreamYard, but they're the free service that we use to stream on YouTube. So I want to give them shout outs. Well, where are they? Right there. StreamYard, right there. Instagram, it looks like I'm doing nothing, but on the YouTube, I'm pointing at the sign. So StreamYard's been really cool with getting us access to live streaming services. So definitely want to say we appreciate them. I don't need these headphones anymore because clearly I know that it's working. All right. So today, like I said, we're doing financial foundations of finance 101. And before I get into that, I want to share with you a couple of things. So over the last 2 weeks, I've been posting pictures of images of food, right? I am a big food person. I love eating food. I love making food. And recently I've had this little hashtag called My Kitchen. And I want you guys to get on board with this hashtag. I want you guys to cook something nice in your kitchen and then hashtag my kitchen on there and post that on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, whatever you want to post it on. I want to make that a trending thing because I feel like we got to get more acclimated back into our kitchen, get back into the basics of cooking for ourselves because it's a skill that you should have. You know, it's kind of weird. I mean, so ladies, if you met a guy who didn't know how to cook, what would you feel about him? Like, how would that make you feel about whether or not that's a good candidate for marriage, right? Like, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing for y'all? And fellas, I know I already know what you guys think. If you met a young lady who was interested in becoming a wife and she had no working skills in the kitchen, whether you cook or not, I know you're not going to like that. And if you do, well, then that's cool. You know, I mean, hopefully one of you can make a meal. But yeah, definitely hashtag make that trending and let's make sure that we're eating healthy things. So, all right, so let's get right into it. So the first chapter in our 5-chapter course is called The Core Finance. And I wanted to build it in a way where it gave you the tools to continue on the process. Last week, we had a guest on, Video Letter. Shout out to Vince, the only letter. And he was a guest on our show last week. He talked about his journey in finance, but also he's a podcaster professionally, does a lot of other things as well. We met during the summer and kind of stayed in touch ever since. And he's been a very good inspiration for me when it comes to motivating me to be consistent, staying consistent with this journey of podcasting and live broadcasting. So definitely want to just shout out him and his podcast. I think they have a podcast tonight at 10 o'clock, I believe. So if you don't follow him, please give him a look and you're probably going to have a good time. He's a very awesome individual and man. And I respect him a lot. So definitely shout out to V, the only letter. All right. So, back to this, the foundations of finance, we wanted to make sure that we started you guys off on the right track. A lot of times people text me and they say, hey, what do you think about this stock pick? What do you think about this crypto pick? I mean, I can do that all day and we can go through the numbers and see if this is a good idea. Check out the chart. We'll go through all that. But before I even get into that, how is your financial picture? When you buy the stock of a company, what you're saying is that you trust that company's books. You're saying that you trust them to actually invest your money with them. You trust them enough to say, hey, I'm going to give you my money in hopes that whatever you do with it turns a profit out for me. Like that's really what happens when you buy a stock. You're buying a debt instrument, right? You're buying a stock. It's a debt instrument. You can do a stock, a bond, a preferred stock. Those are all instruments that are literally debt for a company. They owe it to you, right? To give you that money back in some sort of asset return, stock split, having revenues that they can then give as dividends out to you. Like, it's a debt instrument. So when you physically give money to a company by buying their stocks, you're giving them an inflow of cash that is a debt to them on their books. Okay. So if you're going to invest into other people, why not understand what that investment is for you if you were to make it for yourself, right? So in this course, we're going to talk about, to build high, you have to dig low first. Your depth will be what determines how high you can build. And that's a financial universal truth. If you don't start by building your foundation of your financial picture first and foremost, it's going to impact whatever you can build on the end. And think of it this way. You've known folks who have won the lottery and blew the money within a week, right? Because again, they didn't build a deep enough structure to then erect the tower that they needed. They just had money that was an instant windfall. They didn't find a financial advisor to help them with it. They didn't learn how to invest money properly, how to save money properly. They didn't learn how to diversify their assets or investments, how to decide which is a good pick or not a good pick. They didn't have all that information. All they said was, hey, I'm going to go and spend this money on my boys or my girls, or I'm going to go out clubbing. I'm going to go buy a house in Miami. I'm going to do all these things and not think about residual income. Like, they're building something without the foundation. So for us, it's very important that when you build from the right place. I want to say what's up to the folks in the room. This is going to be a good episode. If you guys have friends or family that are interested in finance and want to start investing, saving, taking advantage of the market prices of this, you need to be on this call. So we're doing our chapter 1, the foundations, the core of finance of our financial literacy program. This is a treat that I'm doing for you guys for free. This course does cost, but I'm going to offer this first chapter as kind of a taste as to what it would look like for folks who are interested in signing up for a course. When we put it on live, you'll have access to that. So the foundations, I'm going to read off some of the things that we discuss in this chapter. So foundational financial literacy begins with understanding what good habits are and what bad habits are. That's the beginning. How we spend, what we spend, and why we spend in those areas. Okay. What is an investment and what is an expense? Understanding the difference between those two. Accounting terms and the differences between assets, liabilities, and owner's equity. So we define those for you so you understand what those are. How does a balance sheet work? What is a statement of cash flows? What is my personal income statement and what does it say about my current financial health? The next point is, what is my capacity to earn an income? And are those monies residual or active? Next, we'll talk about what is residual income versus active income, assets that you earn money with and money that you have to actively work for yourself, how the wealthy protect their wealth, the basics of wealth transfer, life insurance, and a final will and testament to manage assets if you have an early demise. Okay, so those are all the points in this chapter that we cover. Okay, now let's start with the first one. How does a balance sheet work? Actually, I'll go up further. Good habits. So that's the first point that we have here, right? What are good habits and what are bad habits? Okay, so for example, if you shop for groceries every week, that's a good habit because you're actually investing in your health. If you eat out every single day because you refuse to shop for groceries, that's a good habit or a bad habit, depending on what you're buying when you're out, how it's made when you're out, and how much it costs you. So if you were to grocery shop and spend $200 a week and not have to buy anything outside, right? That's the equivalent of, what is that? $200 a week. We're going to do this math on this computer here because I don't want to be wrong. That's $28.57 a day, right? So as long as you're spending less than $28 a day on food, then your grocery bill is kind of in line, right? But here's what people don't figure out. When you cook a meal with that $200, that's not just one meal. That's possibly going to feed 2 or 3 or 4 people. In my house, when my mom cooks, both moms, when my mother-in-law cooks, when my mother cooks, they don't cook for one person. They cook for like 10 people. So you're eating that meal like 3 times. So you have to count how many meals you're getting out of that one dish. And that's the type of behavior that is a good habit versus a bad habit. Now, one story I'll tell you. I went to Walmart this week and Chick-fil-A. You guys are familiar with Chick-fil-A, right? You know the Chick-fil-A sauce, that like mayonnaise kind of creamy sauce that's delicious with the fries. Okay, cool. So I never knew what was in that, but I loved it. Every time I go to Chick-fil-A, I would take that sauce and I would dip my fries in it, put it on the burger, whatever, whatever. Come to find out, the damn sauce has high fructose corn syrup in it, which is like you don't really want that. That's not a thing that you ever want to have sweetening your stuff, but it was in there along with a couple other things, different types of preservatives, all this stuff. I'm like, so when you go out, you're eating this stuff, and it's not even stuff that you would buy for yourself, but you're doing it because it's there. You're doing it because it's convenient. And what I'm going to say is that is not a good decision, right? When you're eating out, and let me give you another one. So I went, what was the other one? There was another sauce. I think it was Wango Tango sauce from Wing. What's that place called? The wing place. I forget what it's called. Oh my goodness, I can see it. Anyway, they have a Wango Tango sauce. This is a wing spot, a very Buffalo Wild Wings. Boom, Buffalo Wild Wings, Wango Tango sauce. So they had a bottle at the grocery store, and I'm like, wow, Wango Tango sauce. I love that type of sauce. Da, 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 da. I look at the back of that. What's on the back of that? You guessed it, high fructose corn syrup. So again, the things that you go out to eat, usually they're sweetened with things that are going to be toxins in your body or not be able to be digested by your actual stomach and has to be turned into fat in order for it to even survive in your body. That's the kind of stuff and during a time of COVID and a pandemic, you don't want to be eating that crap. So for me, it's important that when you talk about good decision making, good habits and bad habits, it starts with the simple things like what you put in your mouth is a good habit. How does that affect finance? Well, it does. You're spending money at these places to eat unhealthy. Why? That's a kind of habit. Now, let's say that you adjust that and you're no longer going to, this grocery store to get Wango Tango sauce, but you actually get a natural sauce that actually has honey or sugar or whatever in it, actual brown sugar or you know what I mean? Or sweetened with honey. You're going to be better off health-wise. And during a time like this, you want to make sure that your health is wealth. Like that's a very big, important decision. Wealthy people don't buy nonsense. Wealthy people don't buy trash. They literally buy high quality things because they can afford it. So when you're looking to become wealthy, you have to then take on the habits of a wealthy person. And I'm not saying this to be divisive, like, oh, if you're not wealthy, you can't make, like, no, like wealth to me is irrelevant. Like, I don't care how much money you think you have. Wealth is here. So, and to me, it's smart and it's wealthy to eat healthy. So they're just fall in line with what actual wealth is, which is knowledge and wisdom and understanding. So what you eat and when you eat, very important thing. So habits like that are very important. Now, let's say that you go out a lot and you spend a lot of money on drinks, tipping people, taking Ubers or Lyfts. Like, let's say you're doing that instead of buying a car. Like, these are the types of decisions that you have to think about. And even with the buying a car situation, I've had 3 people that did not know about hire car as an option. This one gentleman, he had crashed his car. He didn't have a vehicle. He was driving Uber or Lyft, and he crashed his vehicle, met him, and he was like, yeah, I wish I could get a vehicle. I'm like, sir, have you heard of hire car? He's like, no. I'm like, sir, you could rent a vehicle for $30 a day. How much were you making driving Uber or Lyft? He was like, $200 a day. I'm like, okay. So you can rent a car for 35, $40 a day, make $200 a day, get back to where you were, make enough money to buy yourself another vehicle and then keep it going. Like, that's what it means about making good choices. He didn't even know about that. And sometimes making a good choice isn't about you. It's about your access to information. Sometimes you just don't have the data, and that's what ruins you, right? So the goal of this is to build up your good habits because they have a way of compounding over time, not just in your financial world, but in your actual life, right? So good habits versus bad habits. Look for yourself and kind of see where are you spending money? Look at your paycheck. Look at what you spend a week. Where is your money going? And we're going to talk about this in the next point. What is an expense versus an investment, right? A lot of folks think that they're making investments when all they're doing is paying expenses. Perfect example. Let's say that you wanted to buy a vehicle, right? When you buy a car, if you finance it, that's not necessarily an expense. It's a finance charge. You're paying for something over time, but you own the asset. That's an investment, right? An investment is something where there is a monetary value to whatever it is that you're purchasing. Even if it's something that you have to continuously buy into, an investment is an asset of some kind. So a vehicle is an asset, right? Now, let's say that you are leasing a vehicle. Do you own that investment or not, right? Simple question. So buying a car, financing it, or leasing a car, right? You're making monthly payments. Both are going to another person, a third party, right? But what's the difference between those two decisions? One is you investing in an asset. The other is you investing in an expense because that lease doesn't belong to you. If something happens to that vehicle, you are still liable for the contract of that lease because you're paying a contract to have access to someone else's asset, right? A lot of times we think we're buying things or that we're owning things that we don't actually own, yet we treat them like they're assets, but they're not. Someone that wants to rent versus someone that wants to own the house that they live in with a mortgage. Same conversation. If you want to look at an asset, well, when you buy a house, you have a mortgage payment. You're paying a third party. Cool. But you're paying a third party for an actual physical item that has a value to it, right? That's an asset. That value is attained to you. That's an asset. If you're renting, you're paying money to a third party, but the asset belongs to them, which means that at any point in time, they can drop you at any point in time and you no longer have that asset. So it's important that when you're looking at the transition from where you are right now to the wealth train, right? You've got to start trading out your expenses for assets. Whenever you spend money, you have to spend money on an asset. You have to spend money on things that are going to be beneficial to you and that have a value to it. Because if something goes south, you want to be able to say, hey, I still have this thing that I can sell. You know, I remember folks in 2007 when the market had crashed. There were folks who had mortgages and had properties where the value of their properties went from 300,000 down to 150. Literally half their equity was gone, right? Who felt that? Owners of the properties felt that, right? You owned a building, asset went from 300 down to 150, lost half of its value, right? Renters never felt it. If you were renting a house, that didn't change your day. You had a contract. You're paying your $300, your $1,200 a month consistently. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect you. So renters have this ability to not worry about whatever happens to the asset because it's not theirs. But ask yourself this. When those same folks' property values went down and they had to foreclose on certain properties, what happens to the renter? Well, when I foreclose on a property, if this was if I'm in this example, if I'm foreclosing on a property that I have renters in it, well, when I foreclose, the property now belongs to the bank, and then it belongs to whoever buys it, and they can raise the rent immediately or kick that tenant out legally. So renters and people who do not have the asset in their ownership always are at the risk of losing access to the asset if the owner decides or if the ownership changes or something happens. So when you're looking at where you are, right? Ask yourself, are there things in my life that I do not own, that I have no control over, that I need to gain control over? Because in your financial journey, you're going to know that you're going to be making a transition from being the person that rents from people or that loans assets out from people to the person loaning the assets. That's the transition you have to make. Like you no longer want to be the guy renting or the guy leasing. You want to be the guy issuing the loans. You want to be the guy signing the rental agreement as the owner. Like that's who you want to be. So in order to get you there, we have to change the way you think so that you're thinking about things in a manner of we are moving from leasing and renting things to owning things. When you start owning things, you're going to be in the best position to be financially free because folks who are financially free have no debts. And because they have no debts, they can then issue debts to other people. That's the key. We want to get you there. All right. So the next part of our course, for those who are joining us, this is chapter 1 of our financial literacy program. We're doing a quick run through so that you guys can actually see how we do this. And this is a personalized thing. So whenever we enroll a student, all of these answers are going to be unique and specific to you. This is similar to what you would get from a financial advisor who would walk you through an entire financial profile where they take your income, your investments, your history, your experience, all those things. And then they say, okay, based on what you've given me, here's a mutual fund that you should invest in. Here's life insurance policy you should buy. Here's this, that. They give you solutions on all of these things. What they don't always do is explain how to even get to the table. So what we're going to do is we're going to get you to the table where you understand what each step is and why. Because when you go through this program, you're not going to have questions anymore about finance. Like that's the point of this. Like I always told my clients back in the day that if I do my job right, you won't need me. That's the point. Like if you do your job correctly, you are actually replicating yourself. So you won't need me. And anyone that has that mindset is the right type of person that I want to learn from. Because if I can know that everything that you know you're going to teach me to the point where I can then be self-sufficient and not need you for that, and I can then teach someone else, each one teach one, right? We have then put ourselves in a position where now we are part of the solution, not the problem, right? This has to be replicable. Whatever I tell you has to be something that you can tell others and it can be moved on. So that's the purpose of our course. Once you go through it, you have no questions. At the end of this course, you're going to be basically looking for solutions like, okay, I need to get a will. I need to get some life insurance. I need that, and this is how much I need. Like, you're going to be telling the advisor what to do. He's not going to be telling you what to do. That's where I want you to be. So just tune in and stay tuned on this. If you have friends that are interested in our financial program, just kind of tell them to watch this live when I post it back, and they can go through these points with me to see how our chapter 1 looks. And remember, there's 5 chapters. We go through it. There's homework afterwards, and yeah, so it's a really cool thing. All right, so the next thing is, how does a balance sheet work? Okay, so a balance sheet is a snapshot of your financial picture right now. Before you start with any advisor, the first thing that you should be doing is checking your balance sheet to see what types of things are on there. So a snapshot of your financial picture is, okay, what assets do I own? What monies do I have set aside in certain accounts, whether it be a Forex account or an investment account or a Roth IRA or a 403b or a savings account or a trust or whatever. Cool. What assets do I own? Do I have a car? Do I have a house? Do I have student loans? Those are again, for a balance sheet, you have assets, liabilities. Those are 2 things we're looking at. So total assets, total liabilities, we want to see what that looks like. So on your balance sheet, anything that you owe, like a student loan, anything you owe, like a line of credit, credit card balances, all of those things are placed on your balance sheet. So for me, I have a monthly balance sheet that I track, because if you think about it, a balance sheet is a snapshot, right? So every month I do my balance sheet. I see, okay, I had $10,000 worth of credit cards, okay, on January. On February, I paid off 1,000, so I have $9,000 worth of credit cards, and my balance sheet number gets updated, right? So every month you update your balance sheet with your current figures. This is a good way to track where your money is going and where it needs to go. The first person that I showed this balance sheet idea to, what they said was, I literally see the money whenever I take out my debit card. Like, I literally see, well, if I buy this, then I won't be able to pay. Like, it becomes a part of your thinking. And I think a lot of folks who don't do the balance sheet approach, they don't understand exactly where their money is going. And that's a scary place. When you're spending on your debit card and you don't realize that that could have gone somewhere else, that means that you're not knowledgeable about your finances. So if you can spend willy-nilly knowing that you have, oh, I have money on the card, I'm cool. Like, my credit card's got 10,000 on it, I'm cool. Like, if you're saying that and you don't really see where that money could be better invested or better spent or to help you in another area in your life, that means that you're not in tuned well enough into your finances, where you actually don't know that you're harming your financial future by just spending without thinking. Gone are the days where we can spend without thinking. Like, that's no longer a thing, because you never know what can happen. Literally, I just got news today about something that's happening in my life that I wasn't planning for, but it happened. But guess what? I've already calculated in my head what I need to do to make that adjustment. Because again, you can never predict how life moves. Like, this is COVID. Like, there are people who are losing their jobs because they're not taking a vaccine. There are people who are losing their jobs or losing their lives because they're not taking a vaccine. Like, there are people who are just dying in general, people that are going missing, folks who are moving back home because they want to take care of loved ones. There's so many things happening right now that you cannot predict. But one thing for sure that I know is that no matter what happens, if you don't know what your balance sheet looks like, every time you spend money, you have no idea what that's doing for you or for anyone else. And think of it this way. If you're a helper, someone that likes to help people, and we're in a recession, Flo, exactly. We're in a recession as well. Things are not as available as they used to be. So if you want to help people and you're a helper, wouldn't it be nice to know exactly how much you can spend to help somebody because you've already budgeted that out in your head? Like, imagine if you knew that every week you could spend $80 to help somebody, no matter who it was. Wouldn't that be nice? Because you already budget that and say, hey, listen, I saw a homeless guy, I gave him $50. That means I got $30 left before I go out over budget. Like, you already know when that money is spent, even on a random thing, it's instantaneous. That's how you need to be when it comes to finance, because nothing is a guessing game. Our culture, as spiritual beings, universal cosmic beings, in our natural habitats, in our natural environment, we waste nothing. Nothing. Literally nothing. The word waste is not even in our vocabulary because we don't do that. Everything has a purpose. Everything has its place. And in order for us to get back to that original version of ourselves, we have to start inhabiting that spirit, inhabiting the characteristics of that individual, of that being that is trying to let us know, hey, you don't need that $15,000 diamond earring. You don't need that. You don't need that $100,000 vehicle. You don't need that. What you do need is to put money in that little account and buy that land. What you do need is to pay off that debt. You need to do that. That way you don't owe anyone. That way you can live freely. You do need to take care of your family. You do need to make sure that you're improving your health and your mind. Like there are so many things that you need to do, but it all requires thought. And waste is not a part of our history, a part of our culture. We never did that. As a matter of fact, when the Moors went into Europe in the 400s AD, they actually went into Europe and met with the kings and queens and princes of Europe who were living with their cattle, living with their chickens in the same rooms, right? Wasting, wasting literal space, because if you're a royal person and you're living with your livestock, that's probably not the right thing to do, right? Cool. So the Moors helped all of these European, folks build their castles and build corrals to put their sheep and their cows away from their living quarters so they could actually be royalty and not living with the animals, right? These are the things we don't waste things. We don't. And that includes where to put things. When you're not a wasteful people, you help others compartmentalize their life. But it starts with you doing that with yourself. If you don't know where your money goes and you don't know how it's supposed to be spent or where it should be spent, well, this course will help you get there. That's the point of this. A balance sheet is a corral for your life financially, literally. It puts everything in its place. Your student loans go in place. Your rent or mortgage goes in place. Your car note goes in place. Your car insurance goes in place. Everything has its spot. And then when the money comes in, you're just allocating it to where it goes. You're not even thinking about it. It goes there, go there, you go there, you go there. And when you have excess, you then get to make a very, very CEO decision. I have an excess $500 this week. Where do I want to put that? Which corral do I want to put that in? Do I put that in my savings, in my crypto, in my investments, in my 401k, in my family? Oh, we got paused due to poor connection. What? Oh, I think we have too many Wi-Fi stuff going on around here, folks. Turn off your Wi-Fi, everybody. We got too many apps going right now, y'all. Sorry about that. But you see, when we're speaking the truth, IG and Facebook, they can't handle it. They want to shut me down. They can't shut us down. They know we're doing the right thing here. So for me, again, this entire conversation is about not only making the right habits, but having knowledge of exactly where things are. Because financially, when you come to me to do a financial picture for you, I'm doing the same work that I'm talking about. Like I'm looking at your picture and saying, okay, well, you have $20,000 of credit card debt. You have $50,000 of student loans. That's 70 grand. And you make $70,000 a year. Okay, cool. So you literally make as much as you have. Your net worth is zero. You made 70,000. You have 70,000 worth of liabilities. You're worth nothing right now. So let's help you be worth something. So if in that first year, we got you to pay down your student loans or your credit cards. So now that balance is now 50,000. Well, now next year you're worth 20 grand. You make 70 grand, you have 50,000 of liabilities, you're worth the difference, right? And if I can pay off all of your debts, well, then you're actually worth what you make. You're a $70,000 worth person. That's how it works. So your net worth is essentially, when you look at all of your assets, all of your liabilities, what's left, that's your net worth. Most students have a negative net worth. Most people that I talk to, when I start talking to them, they have a negative net worth. Only, I'd say 10% of the people that I advised had a positive net worth when I first met them. And that wasn't because they weren't making money. It wasn't because they didn't have investments. It was because they had a lot of debt and they didn't realize how that impacted their net worth. And they didn't have insurance. So they didn't have a buffer for that. One of the hacks to having a low net worth is buying life insurance. Because think about it. If you have a daughter, like in my example, I'm married, I have a daughter. And let's say that I make $70,000, right? But I have no life insurance. Well, if I died today, my family would be out $70,000 that year, which would pretty much bankrupt the family. Cool. But if I bought a $500,000 life insurance policy, now my net worth goes from 70,000 to $500,000 overnight. Literally, as soon as that policy is enacted, when I die, that's what I'm worth, right? And usually you want to know net worth for death, because if someone dies, you're trying to weigh out their estate to see if there's someone that relies on you. That's going to literally bump up your net worth immediately. So that's a really cool way to solve a negative net worth issue. Because when you die, your family still needs to live. They still need to exist, pay mortgages, pay rent, pay the light bill, pay for my daughter's schooling and for her food. Like all those things have to happen, even my hair. So when you have an insurance policy, you now giving them a cushion, right? So these are the kinds of conversations that you have to think about, because again, your balance sheet will determine how much money you actually need to survive that year. So in this example, We said that this person's worth $70,000. That's how much they make. They have $70,000 worth of debt. Okay, I have $500,000 of insurance. So if I die, 70,000 of my life insurance pays off my debt, credit cards, and my student loans. Right? Cool. My wife is left with $430,000, which is literally 6 years worth of my salary to survive on until, you know what I mean, things change for her. So that to me again is setting your family up for success. And in COVID, a lot of people died, right? The question that you have to ask yourself is, did they have a financial advisor? Did they have a life insurance policy? Did they have a plan to deal with if they had early death? I tell people I'm worth more. I'm worth more alive than dead. But I mean, if I die tomorrow, my wife will be fine. My daughter will actually get into whatever school she can get to. She's brilliant. She'll probably get a scholarship anyway. But if we have to pay for it, she'll be able to afford it. Like I've set them up in a way where my living or dying does not affect them financially. How many of you can say that who have kids, who have a spouse, who have people that rely on you, who have family members that rely on you, right? Like even my dad takes care of an entire village of people, right? If something were to happen to him, same thing. Like there are people whose lives are literally hanging in the balance, and he always thinks that way. So he's always thinking about what would happen to the people that I take care of if something happens to me. Because sometimes it's not just about you, it's about whoever is responsible, whoever you're responsible for. How are they going to manage if you go? Or if you're not able to work, or if you lose your job, or if something happens. So, let me see, Flo, you're saying my life insurance will help, but I can't say that, sir. But we need to say that, right? We need to all be able to say what I'm saying because that's the conversation, and that's okay. Like this is a part of this chapter. Like this chapter is the slap in the face. It's the one that'll say, "Hey, are you doing it right or are you doing it wrong? You're doing it wrong, you're gonna get slapped in the face. You're doing it right, the slap's not gonna be as hard. Like it's a snapshot of where you are. And in finance, you have to be honest, just like in life. You've got to be honest with where you are because that's the only way that you can grow out of it. Okay. Don't think that because you are, you're lying about your life, you're lying about your situation that you're just going to be okay. No, like the truth will come out if something bad happens or if you're trying to figure something out and it's not working out. The truth will show itself, right? So it's really important that we take the time to actually do the right thing. Do the right thing by your family and by yourself by preparing for things. All right. So I am going back to our chapter here. Let me just pull back up our StreamYard. Okay, cool. All right. So the next point that we're going to make here is, so balance sheet, that's the first thing you got to do. You set up a balance sheet. So you got to take your assets, all the things that you own that have value to it, minus it from all the things that you owe that have a value to it, right? So on this balance sheet, when you do this, right, this is an exercise. Just write assets on one side, liabilities on one side, and list all of your assets and say how much they're worth. So if you have a car, $10,000, car, 10,000, whatever you could sell it for, whatever you can get for it, money wise. That's how you list it. So let's say that you have a car note, right? Your car is valued at 10,000, but you owe 17,000 on the car, right? So how you would put that on this balance sheet is you'd put 10,000 of value, of marketable value for your car, and then you'd put 17,000 of liability because that's how much you still owe on there, right? So you see how you're already in a negative 7,000 on that one point. So one thing can be listed both as assets and liabilities. And it gets a little tricky, but it shouldn't be. Just think of it this way. Every asset has a value. You want to assess what that value is if you were to liquidate it right now. That's how you determine the asset's value. Okay. So you put the car, $10,000, whether it be worth if I liquidated it right now. I owe 17,000 on. Okay, cool. Let's say that transaction happened. I sold my car. What would happen? I'd have a $7,000 negative left over, right? That I'd still have to pay. So the balance sheet naturally works itself out to the truth of the matter, which is you have a negative $7,000 worth of liability left. Cool. So you want to show that. Same thing with a credit card. So on a credit card, and I know some advisors may not advise this, but I do because I like you understanding your assets. A credit card is an asset when it doesn't have a balance on it. So if you have a credit card for $5,000 and you've never spent anything on it, that $5,000 goes on the asset side as literally a $5,000 like cash sitting there, credit card, $5,000 available. That goes on the asset side. On the liability side, it's a zero because you've never spent anything on it. So now let's say you have a balance on your credit card. Same $5,000 credit card. Let's say that you have $25,000 of balance on the credit card. So you owe $25,000 and you have, you owe $2,500 and you have $2,500 as available credit, right? On your balance sheet, you're going to put, I have $2,500 as available and in my asset, and I have $2,500 as a liability, which I owe. And next to that liability, you put the interest rate on it. Okay. That's like a little note I want you to put next to your liabilities. So for your liabilities, put the interest rate that you owe on your credit cards, on any loans, student loans, mortgages, whatever have you. Just put the balance and the interest rate next to it. And I'll show you what to do with that later. When you take these two columns, total them up at the bottom, minus them from each other. If the liability number is bigger, you're in a negative net worth. If the asset side is bigger, then you're at a positive net worth. Okay. And what I want you to do once you've gotten that number is I want you to add all of the interest on the liability side, just multiply to see what the yearly interest is and add all those numbers together and put that at the bottom next to the total. And that's going to be a negative yearly, right? I want you to see this because whenever you don't see what interest is doing and how it's eroding your net worth, you don't really want to aggressively destroy it. I had some people ask me, I came into some money and, I wanted to know if I should pay off my debts or invest in crypto. And I said, well, how much do you owe? And they told me the number and I said, I would pay that off because unlike crypto, I can guarantee you the interest will still be that or higher by the end of the year. Why not start from zero? Because think about it. When you have liabilities like credit card debts, right? You're paying monthly out of your income to pay that, right? So the fastest way to increase your capital is to give your income less expense. Meaning if I can eliminate a $200 credit card bill every month, then I've just made $200 that I could spend somewhere else. So if you come into money that was not really money that you earned, why not have that money give you a bump in your income of $200 every 2 weeks or every month? Sorry. That's how you have to think. You got to think as to what can this money do for me? And now think about it this way too. Unless you can guarantee to get the same level of interest in returns on your investments as you would have to pay on that debt, it will never be worth it to keep the debt on the books and try to invest to beat that price. You can't guarantee that. And we're in a recession. There's no stock that you can pick right now that's going to double over the next 2 weeks that you can guarantee. But I can show you many stocks that have decreased by 50% since last month. I can show you many stocks that have decreased by 20% last week, right? So if you pick any of these stocks and your stuff goes down, you've just lost the ability to pay off a debt and you've lost the actual capital cash that you put into this investment in the first place. So that's why when you're looking at it from this standpoint, and this is how I look at things, if you have a guaranteed negative that you can eliminate, do that because your ability to make that back is very easy once you invest and you allocate that money the right way. Okay. So that's the balance sheet piece, y'all. So hopefully if you missed it, when I attach this back, just go back and rewatch that part and we can go. I want to say how everyone in the room right now. On Bev, what's going on? How you doing? Nice to see you. Bobby G, what up? What up? Mr. Styles, what's going on? Thanks for joining me, brother. Classy Drummer, what's popping? Ronaldo, hey, what's going on, King? Auntie Bev, what's up? Dr. Hater, what's up? Good to see you, Johnny Boy. Antioch, Marlon, what's popping, man? Flo, always nice to see you. Hey, Mr. KC, Mr. Cyrus, what's up? Them people were nasty in Europe. Yep, they're nasty dealing with their animals. J Instrumental, what's going on? Top Model C, what up? Yeah, NYC. Oh, NYC. Girl, what's up? How you doing? Nice to see you. Crystal Velez, what up? All right, people all up in here, man. That's what I'm talking about. See, and this is what I mean. Like when it has things like this is the type of stuff that you invite your friends to so that they can get this information. And again, if they haven't seen it, let them come back and rewatch it. I'm going to go through chapter 1 of this Foundation of Financial course with you guys. And again, this is the purpose of this. So the next point on here is, what is a statement of cash flows? Okay. Now, a statement of cash flows is simple. Money coming in versus money going out. That's it. Nothing else to it. So a statement of cash flow is they want to see where the money flows into you and flows out of you. The purpose of chapter 1 is really to show you how a business is judged, right? All the statements that I'm talking about, when you look up investments, you're going to be able to look up their balance sheet, look up their statement of cash flows, look up their income statement, and you'll actually know what those are because we're going to use you as a company. We're going to use you as the example so that you can do it for yourself to see what's on a balance sheet. Because if I tell you what a balance sheet is, assets, liabilities, and whatever owner's equity is left, if I tell you that, and then you go to an actual company's for SEC filings and you look at their balance sheet, you'll be able to see, wow, they have a lot of liabilities, these guys. That's not good because if I had those liabilities, I'd be bankrupt. That's the point. The point is, if I treat you like a business and I show you how to look at yourself, well, then when I ask you then to look at an actual business to see if it's a good investment, you'll be able to look at their actual financial statements and know what the hell they are. How many of you, and you guys can put this in the chat, how many of you know how to read a company's SEC filings or their financial statements, their balance sheets, their income statements, their statements of owner's equity, their 401k? Like, how many of you know how to read financial statements from a company on Yahoo Finance or wherever you find their financial statements? Just put a quick thumbs up if you know how to, or just give me a I don't know. Okay. AM Win. Hey, what's going on, man? Andrew, what's up? So yeah, like you guys, Mr. Wint, what's going on, sir? So ask yourself, like all of you, like, do you know how to read financial statements? Now, we have accountants in the house who I know how to read financial statements, but for the majority of folks who want to invest in crypto and want to invest in other companies, if you can't read their financial statements, you shouldn't be investing in them, because there is a level of understanding that you have to have before you put money into something, right? So Ashley, you know how to read financial statements? That's what's up. Okay. So everyone's got to be there, right? Now, a statement of cash flows is very simple. So let's say that every 2 weeks you get a paycheck of $1,000, right? Cool. So that's first cash flow. That's going in. Now, cash flow is anything coming in, anything going out. That's what we're looking at. Cash flow coming into you, that's good. Cash flow going out, that's bad. So your income that's coming in, that's cash flow coming in. Add that up. You have any sort of rental income, you have any sort of residual incomes from a business, you drive cars, you have things that you sell on eBay. All that is inflow. So you tally all that up, right? And then you tally the outflow, meaning all the things that you spend money on. So if you spend money on rent, that's an outflow. You spend money on a telephone bill, outflow. Cable, outflow. Internet, outflow. A membership for the PS network, outflow. Like anything you spend money on, gas, outflow. And what you want to look at is, can your income, the money coming in, does it match or is it greater than the money going out? This is a very important thing, because when you look at a company's statement of cash flows, if the cash that they're getting coming in is less than the cash that they're spending, chances are their stock price is going to be going down, because other investors are going to see that this may not be the best investment because this company is not managing its assets well. You see how the connection happens? So everything that I'm talking about today connects to your investments, all of it. You just have to understand how it connects. So what I'm saying is a statement of cash flows will tell you the health of a company's income. Are they using that income wisely? Are they investing it in the right things? Do they have a surplus at the end of their spending? If a company brings in 1,000, spends 500 every month, there's a surplus of $500 in the cash flow statement, right? That is a good thing. And when that happens on the millions, like when let's say they bring in, $1 million and spend 500,000, they keep $500,000. That's a good company. Like that's the kind of company that you want to invest in, because their books look healthy. They're only spending half the money that they make, which means that they can reinvest that $500,000 into plant, assets, employees, other, opportunities, owner and acquisition. Like they can now use that $500,000 that they have saved for other things to improve the company's outlook. That's the kind of company you want to invest in. Look at Apple. They do that. They've been doing that for a long time. Look at any of these companies. That's how you can judge them, right? So a statement of cash flows for yourself personally, same type of chart. I want you to do cash flow in, and then line cash flow out. 2 lists, right? And everything that comes into you, write down what it is, how much it is. Tally all that up. Cash flow going out, what that is, and how much it is, and how much is going out. And then total the bottom. So take the totals for both of them and minus them from each other. The assets, the flow in from the flow out, and see what type of flow you have. We want that flow to be positive, no matter what. Now, here's a nice little hack I want to teach you about. So remember I said that when money goes out, it's an outflow of cash, right? That's not always a bad thing, because if my money is going out into an asset, that's a wise way for my money to leave me, right? So let's say I get 1,000 in, I spend 500 on expenses, but then I spend another 200 on my 401k. It goes out to my 401k, or goes out to my Roth, or goes out into my stock portfolio, but it didn't go out and get lost. We have to get to a place where whenever money leaves us, it's either going to an asset, or it's going to build some type of equity, or it's going to a place where we can still benefit from it. Which is why things like when money going out to groceries, I'm benefiting because I'm eating healthy. My body's going to be right. I'm going to have enough of a built immune system for any sort of disease that comes my way. Like See how it comes back to you? So you have to think about when your money leaves you, does it leave you in a way that comes back to you in a positive way or not? Perfect example of this as well is if you get massages. Like I have a massage therapist. Shout out to Patrice. What's up? Been holding me down for I don't even know how many years. I love that lady. Patrice is the best. If you're ever in New York and you need a massage therapist, I will take you to her myself. She is a genius. Anyhow, I spend money on Patrice. I spend $70 every month, right? That's money going out. However, that fixes me. It literally repairs my body. That's a good reason, right? Now, let's say I spent that same $70 on alcohol, going out drinking with my buddies. That's not really, I mean, camaraderie, that could be beneficial. Maybe I'm helping someone get through a problem, so that could be beneficial, right? But let's say it's not that. Let's say I'm just doing it because I want to get away from my family. Why didn't I just go spend that somewhere else? Doing something that's beneficial for me as opposed to just wasting it, right? So it's important that when money flows out of you, it's flowing into something that can be used for your benefit or the benefit of someone that you love or folks that are close to you, and it's not just being wasted, right? Um, okay, so that's cash flow statement. So we're going to talk about that when you guys join our course. We show you how to write one, how to do it. It's a beautiful thing. And even my cash flow statement, I'll tell you right now, I'll pull mine up. My statement of cash flows, and this is like, personal stuff. I have a current, let's see what, I have a current positive of $206 every month on my statement of cash flows. You see how I know my numbers? Like this is where all of you need to be, where you can pull up your spreadsheet. And I'm looking at my spreadsheet right now. It's really, if I showed you this, you'd be like, do you really need all those things on a spreadsheet? Yes, I do. Because again, you got to know your numbers. So on my spreadsheet, it shows me my mortgage, my credit cards, my car insurance, Netflix, life insurance, a cable bill, Sirius XM, all this stuff, right? My investments, my savings, all that's there. When I spend money on everything, when it's done, I have $206.84 left for whatever I want. Okay? You need to know that. And granted, that doesn't mean that that's my net worth. That just means that that's how much free capital I have at the end of all of my budgeting. That's like all of my corrals are paid and I have a little surplus. So I'm a pretty good investment for myself because I am in the positive there, right? I want you all to do this math and to see where you're at on a statement of cash flow to know whether or not you're in the positive. The goal is to be in the positive. And if you're not in the positive, ask yourself, is the flow of that cash out going into assets that at least you still have access to the cash or the value of that? Because if it is, that's a good thing. So if your money is flowing out to a car payment, again, that's an asset. That's a good thing. There's a value to that. If it's flowing out into a mortgage, that's a good thing. There's a value to that. Moving into student loans, there's no value to that. That's an expense, right? So there's certain things that have value, certain things that don't. So yeah. So let's go back to our statement here. Let's just close this back. Oop, I made it bigger. All right. So the next thing we're going to cover is what is my personal income statement and what does it say about my current financial health? So your income statement is revenue minus expenses, period. We'll tell you whatever your actual income is. Okay, owner's equity at the end. Sorry. I think it's not owner's equity. It is what's the term? It's something income. Dang, I got to go back to my books. It's in there. Anyhow, I think it's retained earnings. I think it's retained earnings. Yeah, I think that's what it is. But anyway, the calculation is your revenue minus all your expenses. That tells you what your actual income statement is all about. So the goal for an income statement is check out, again, the same like a statement of cash flow is very similar. Take all of the money that you make, all of the actual income that comes in, minus out all the expenses, and whatever's left over is your income statement. That tells you exactly what you're worth. So there are multiple tools that we use to check your financial health, and that's going to be residual, right? It was residual income. Yeah. So again, y'all, this is all stuff in the course. I'm trying to wing it right now, but again, like you see, this is the point. You need to know all of these things. Next thing we're going to talk about is your current capacity to earn an income, and are those monies residual or active? Okay, so some of you work 9 to 5. Some of you have investments that pay you back. Some of you have vehicles that you rent out that you get money for. Some of you have rental income that pays you. Some of you have generational wealth or family that pays you alimony, or or you're getting money from disability. Some of you are getting money from retirement. There's many different types of income that come into you, right? one of the things that we have to think about is what is your capacity to earn an income? You know, do you currently have the ability to earn more money than you make right now? And if you do, how do you tap into that? So, for example, we talked about hire car on this app on this program before. Hire car is an opportunity for you to take any sort of used vehicles that you have sitting in your garage and rent them out for money. So you can rent them out to folks who do rideshare, whether it's Uber, Lyft, whatever have you, and they can literally pay you every single day for leasing out your vehicle. That is a simple way of increasing your ability to earn. And you're getting that as just passive income. You're not actively doing something to it. You're just sitting back and collecting money. That is one type of income where the money just comes to you without you having to do anything physical. The other type of active money is when you're going out and grinding 9 to 5, or going out and putting out a proposal to get hopefully a contract, or going out and filming something because you're a photographer, filmographer, and you're, you know what I mean? And you're doing work to get paid. There comes a point in time in everyone's life where you won't be able to physically make money. So the goal right now, when you're capable of doing that, is to create multiple streams of income that aren't just active, but literally passive, where you can sit back and watch the money rake in. I think our parents didn't have the luxury of this, but we do now in this generation because we have access to information, to data. We can see that we don't necessarily need to make the money. We can just have the assets that have the money with it, right? So it's really important that when you're thinking about what you're spending money on, and I think my wife and I had a conversation about an investment opportunity that she had available to her. And I told her, I'm like, listen, I mean, I don't mind it, but I'm not feeling it. I'm like, this is too far from me. I'm like, I would rather be directly connected to the revenue stream than have to rely on somebody else's business model to then get paid. So, for example, if I'm doing a hire car and I have a vehicle to rent, that's my vehicle. It's my asset, right? I control that. So I can rent that out. Money comes directly to me. But I don't want to be the person that has to worry about what that person has to do to afford the car that I'm renting. Like, I don't want to be one step away. I want to be like there, right in the middle. I want to be the guy with the control of the spigot, of the money spigot, to say, hey, I'm gonna turn it on, turn it off. I don't want to rely on someone else's business model to do that, right? So for me, again, those are the types of decisions that we have to make in life, where we have to think about: do you have access to active and passive income? And if you don't, how can you increase your knowledge of ways to make money? Okay. I know my buddy just posted something about a trade on a trade that you can make to make 10 grand. I don't know who, I think it was, I think it's up there. Where is it? I think someone posted it. Anyway, there was a trade that he made that literally was the truth, and they made a ton of money off of it. And I'm like, things like that, that's passive. Like, you're literally making trades on the market. You're clicking things and boom, you get money. That's an important skill to have. And folks who are invested and know how to do that, again, you've increased your capabilities of making money. This is why I would suggest folks, again, not only take this course, but start to research and understand different passive ways of making income that aren't just a scam, right? Ways that you can actually learn how to make income. So that was that. And how the wealthy protect their wealth, the basis of wealth transfer, and how the system will treat your estate when you die. Okay, so in New York, when you die, if you don't have a will, your money is going to be taken through probate. And that process can take anywhere from 3 months to even a year, depending on how complex your estate is. And the state will determine where your assets go. Okay. And if you're not married, it's even worse. It takes longer. You got to get next of kin, all kinds of stuff. Now, the wealthy don't. Oh, I'm paused. Okay, I'm getting. When I say the word wealthy, that's when they come from my connection, right? So wealthy folks don't want the state to ever tell them or their family where their money should go. And I think that's a good lesson for us to have, especially when we're talking about where we want our money to be. You know, if you have assets now, even if you don't have assets now, it's important that you set aside the time to find somebody who's going to be the person responsible for your assets and investments, and that they understand where things are. The messiest thing that I've seen is somebody dying and them having all of their financial stuff in a box in the attic. The family didn't know where it was, and they were just SOL. They didn't even know that this person had. Oh, I'm freezing again. Oh, they're pausing me out right now. I guess the data is too hard. They don't like me talking this truth. I'm gonna say it quick. Have all of the things that you need to have in one place set up already. That way, if something ever happens to you, people know what to do. Get a will if you don't have one. If you have insurance, that's a good start. Just so you know, life insurance passes outside of probate, which means that the court doesn't have to be responsible for anything when it comes to life insurance death claims, that gets paid directly to your beneficiaries without that process. So a lot of folks, when they get caught up in probate and they have the mortgage to pay, they have the light bill to pay, they have car notes and things like that, life insurance usually is the first thing to pay out. It usually pays out within days of receiving the death certificate. Literally, if I have a death certificate in my hand right now, I give it to the life insurance company agent and they can process that within 2 to 3 days, right? And that benefit is literally in a checking account that I can now write checks out of. So it's an immediate type of cash. It's a really good thing for folks who have beneficiaries and kids. That way your spouse can have access to something in the meantime while the estate's being probated. So it's just something to think about. But the goal is, when you're wealthy, you have to figure out exactly how you want your money to go, where you want it to be, how you want it to actually be divvied up. I actually have a story, and I'm not going to share it with you, but the moral of the story is, you see the worst in people at divorces and at funerals. Those two things, right? Whoever you had known before, when those things happen, you get a whole different version of them. So you don't want them to be responsible for certain decision making. That's why it's important to have an executor for your will, important to have beneficiaries listed before you die. That way, everything goes the way it's supposed to, regardless of the mental abilities of people, because that is the problem, right? Weddings, sometimes. We always have, our wedding, we had like, let me not out anybody, but our wedding, we had some fun. There was some stuff that happened that was funny. I have to admit, but it didn't phase me because I did business. I was marrying my queen, so I was like, whatever. You guys can do all this other stuff as long as she walks down and doesn't say no when the pastor asks her to say yes. We're good. Actually, my wife is tripping. Let me tell you something about my wife. I love her to death. This woman, you know what she did? We were getting married, and I think that the Pastor John, shout out to Pastor John Scott, that's my guy. He said something, and I think my wife made like this motion to like bolt. And I was like, what? What is happening right now? It was just it was funny at the time. But when I think back, I was like, yo, that's cold blooded, yo. How you gonna like give me like a little hesitation on the running? And you had heels on and everything. I don't know, how far are you gonna get? I'll track you down, bring you right back to the altar. Like, where are we going? Anyway, didn't fly over to Florida to have you run away. No. You can come right back. Where are you running? Why are you running? I would have turned straight, why are you running, guy? And chased her back. I'm like, yo, bridesmaids, go find her. We ain't leaving here. We paid 6 hours. We're here. You better find my bride. I'd have turned into a tyrant. But babe didn't do that. She was just playing around. It was funny though. It was actually hilarious when she did that. Everyone laughed. But yeah, part of me was like, why are you doing that? All right. Anyway, so back to the point. You don't want to deal with people during divorces and funerals and weddings. My wife put in, but really not weddings, divorces and funerals. And people really turn, when it comes to money getting dished out, you see the worst in people, especially folks who aren't morally sound. They tend to look at that as their opportunity to grab and get whatever they think they deserve, even though they may not deserve it, even though it may not be the last wishes of the person. So anyway, it's 9 o'clock, y'all. And that was my last point. Did you see how that worked out? Man. So folks, here's your homework. Because in every chapter we have our literacy courses homework assignment. Your homework assignment is create your own balance sheet, 1. Create your own income statement, 2. What is your current net worth, meaning assets minus liabilities? Figure that out. Tell me the number. Number 3, what is your goal for net worth by the end of the year? I want a specific goal based on what we find out with your net worth. What do you want that to look like by the end of this year and then the end of next year? I want another 12-month vision on that, okay? Next, I want to know, what waste do you currently have in your balance sheet, and how can you consolidate or eliminate that waste? The next is, I want you to use a time value of money if you're young, and I want you to determine how much money you have to put aside to get to whatever it is that you said your net worth should be by the time you retire. That's the homework assignment. So folks, that was Financial Literacy Course Chapter 1. All right. Now I know it is, we kind of ran out of time, but we ended on time. So this is great. Folks, please put this in the caption of the post. Put what in the caption? Class C drummer. Oh, put what in the caption, babe? Another great. All right. So yeah, folks. So this is what we do. So if you like what you heard, and if you can share this video with your friends and family, let them kind of get started on this. This is how we're going to move. The point of what I do is to give you free things that can make you into a lethal financial weapon, right? I want you to be just as crazy cutting as I am when it comes to finance. And we'll do that together. We have homework. We're going to get through this, but I want you to take this stuff seriously, share it with your friends, share it with your family. And if you like what you see, DM me, get in this program, and let's get you hooked up. All right, folks. Love you. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys next week, where I have a special treat next week. So I ain't gonna tell you about it yet, but next week you better join me. I got something spicy. All right. All right, folks. Take care now. Appreciate you guys. Later. All right, YouTube, thank you for joining us. And again, if you are on our page, you can go scroll down. You'll see why we do our financial literacy. It's right here. Hold on, let me scroll down. I know you guys are on our page right now, so you can see what I'm doing. The reason why we do this, y'all, right? The reason why we do this because we want to make sure that we can make a difference, right? So, this is our challenge. We want to support our youth. We want to support them with our financial literacy program. Ages kids from 7 to 17 years old. But again, this is open to everyone. The ultimate goal is to have folks manage their lives, manage their finances. But we want to make sure that kids can do it as well from a young age. So if you want to kind of see more, check out our website. It's on there, www.theway.org. Sorry, theway.com. We have .org as well, but I haven't put that up yet because we don't need to. We're getting close. All right, so YouTube, I appreciate y'all. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being a part of the Way Tribe. And I hope you learned something today that you can pass along to someone else. Again, share this video, share this and like it. Make sure that folks can get access to this information. And like I said, this is a journey, but we're going to do it together. All right, so folks, love you, appreciate you. Till next week, we have a special treat. Make sure you join me next week. All right, peace out. Peace and love, family. Deuce.